Hi, my name is Grace, and this is my Future of Higher Education Leadership Analysis presentation, and I'll just go ahead and get started. So I will say that the motivations for my analysis come directly from my real work. I work in admissions at the College of Medicine for UCF, and since I began this position in August, I've noticed that the building is extremely quiet, and that's mainly because we have a rule in our building enforced supposedly by both the president of the university and the dean of our College of Medicine that faculty and staff may work 2 days remotely and 3 days in person. And while staff seem to be complying with these rules and student services are able to be provided effectively, what we've noticed is that faculty are more keen to be remote. They are remote 4 days a week, 5 days a week, coming in just a few hours and students have noticed and they've been negatively impacted. We've seen STEP scores dramatically decrease. Students are not participating as much in student organizations. They're not doing as much research. And so I was interested in investigating what leadership has done and can do to meet the demands of remote and hybrid faculty. Initially, I wanted to also explore how this has impacted students, but really the scope of this paper just didn't allow for it. It's something I'm still interested in, but I really focused on the faculty. So my leadership questions were, how has the shift to remote and hybrid instruction impacted faculty job satisfaction and retention? Because there is a faculty retention crisis happening in this country right now since the pandemic. And then what strategies have higher education leaders deployed to meet the demands of their remote faculty and hopefully to retain them? So I just kind of want to briefly touch on this. A couple of the readings that inspired me to do this and that I actually used in my paper. The first was from Levine and Van Pelt. You may remember this was a higher ed article about the new realities that are kind of on the horizon or maybe already happening in higher ed. And one of those was the shift to remote degrees and certificates and students kind of bending the rules of what we consider traditional or non-traditional and, just kind of adapting higher education for them. And I really use this to talk about how that has informed in instruction online and how maybe traditional or campus-based faculty since the pandemic have been pushed to be more reliant on technology because of these demands to be online, specifically because of the pandemic. And so they maybe have been pushed in that direction. So I did use that. And then Gigliotti and Ware also had some ties to what I ended up writing about because they focused on internal organization development offices, which experimented to varying degrees of success with different kind of podcasts and webinars, one-on-one coaches. They did virtual trainings, lecture series, and they did all of this to try to intervene and practice crisis management, which is something that I was interested in because all of this remote and online demand really stemmed from being pushed to emergency remote instruction due to COVID-19. So I didn't actually use their reading in my analysis, but it did kind of inform and inspire some of the strategic leadership theory that I do use as a framework and crisis management theory. So both of those things really did assist me while I was writing this paper. The primary areas of focus that I use are, like I mentioned before, the faculty retention crisis. I go into the numbers and kind of what has led up to this retention crisis and sort of the mitigating factors that some institutions have been using. I talk about quality of instruction and remote faculty's kind of lingering worries about the quality of their instruction and what tools can be used to give them more confidence and also gain some faculty buy-in so that they invest in their own skill and professional development. The techno stress and sort of the over-reliance on technology and maybe how we can inform faculty and encourage them to improve those skills because they're going to kind of, again, be pushed more in this environment. I also talk about the side effects of self-isolation and faculty learning communities, which might be used and encouraged by leadership in an online and in-person format. And then I also kind of briefly talk about the impacts on campus-based faculty and how they're responding to part of the faculty being remote or hybrid and how that's impacted workplace culture for them. So yeah, those are my primary areas of focus. Oh, sorry. And I did just also want to mention that I'm suggesting that improving technology training, incorporating the online faculty learning communities, and enforcing clear and equitable expectations for all different faculty types, campus-based, remote, hybrid, is going to improve retention, job satisfaction, job performance, and the quality of the instruction. So some of my remaining questions, I do talk about Kelly Services, which is a third-party company that helps to allow faculty who move outside of the state to still work for that institution. So it's a retention mitigating factor. It's used to retain faculty and kind of alleviate the stresses of the human resources crisis that we have for faculty right now. So I'm wondering if third-party companies like Kelly Services are actually providing long-term solutions for institutions. UCF is one that uses Kelly Services. What other kind of unique challenges face leadership who are managing remote and hybrid faculty, beyond the qualities that I have mentioned and the focuses that I have chosen, because there are so many? And then how has the student experience been impacted by hybrid and remote faculty? I'm still so interested in it and I want to learn more. So what are the effects on their academic performance, their enrollment, their retention? I got a little bit into it when I was doing my research before I had to pivot, and there were some conflicting results. Some students surveyed said they didn't mind that their faculty was remote, but then from what I'm seeing in my experience, the numbers don't lie, the scores don't lie, and students, at least medical students, are more stressed than ever. And it could be from other factors relating to the pandemic, but I would argue that it does have to do with a lot of their faculty not being there when they don't have the option to be remote. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some insight into my leadership analysis paper. If you care to read it, just let me know. I'm happy to share. These are some of the references that I used, and I hope you have a great end to the semester and a wonderful new year. Thanks.